Hello, everybody. Sorry to be a little bit late. I was busy getting us streaming onto Facebook. We're live on Facebook as well. It's always good. Lovely to see so many of you start to join. While I'm going to share my screen while you're all joining us. So hold tight while I'll probably get it lost. Oh, yeah, it goes lost. We're live on Facebook. There you go. See two of us. Here we go. Right. We are ready. My husband will be furious with me. He always says preparation. It's all about life's about preparation, and I'm always the last minute Annie. Sarah, thank you for joining us. So we're here today to talk about place sentiment. And just while everybody's coming in and joining us, just a little introduction. I'm Chief Exec of Maybe, and Sarah's our Head of Growth, and she's very much the person that picks up the emails and the responds to all the lovely local authorities we're working with at the moment. So Sarah, a little bit, 30 seconds on Lady Bassett, as you're popularly known.
Afternoon all. Quite amused I'm wearing the same scarf as I've had on in that photograph, funnily enough, my signature piece. Yes, I'm Head of Growth for Maybe. I work with local authorities, bids and champions of place to help support businesses in the recovery period by using social media to sell.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sarah. And so today is very much about an introduction to social media and sentiment analysis. It's how Maybe data is used by the High Street Task Force. A bit of an introduction and background into Maybe and how we deliver what we do. And deliver you some case studies looking at data. We've got a basket of 10 towns actually we'll look at today. And we'd love you to ask some questions as we go through. Sarah's here to respond on chat. So if you start giving us names of places, by the end of the webinar, we'll go through and do this live as well. So you can look at data live. So if you shout out places to Sarah as we go through, but please ask questions because this is a whole series of webinars to help people better understand people's feelings about places and how to evaluate your own high street using sentiment analysis. And this is an opportunity to do this live because literally this data exists right now. I think the most exciting thing about social media data is just in the time I've been talking, there's been a gazillion bits of data created. And you need to, what we believe is that social media is a really great way of being able to put your head through the curtains and understand what's being said in a place at any given moment in time. So please drop where you're from in the chat, and we'll do some live analysis because that's life's exciting, isn't it? I'm gonna get rid of that thing that's going ping on my Slack. Here we go. That will quiet that down. Right, here we go. So, sentiment analysis. What is it? Well, basically, it's all fair play to Kathy Parker. She really sort of spotted this early on when we started building Maybe. That the exciting piece here is that if we can take the measurement of content in aggregate social media posts, we can start to provide an insight into how people in places feel about the place. And it could even, it starts to give you an insight into what it means for their intentions and activity on the high street or in the place. So all of the data that we're talking about today has come from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and it's been published by the businesses in the place, but it also picks up all the mentions by people in that place as well. So if you just think about it, 15 years ago, social media didn't exist. And since then, 3.8 billion people, half the planet, have started using it, and it provides an opportunity to analyse what people say about places. And we've got all the tools to measure whether it's positive, whether it's negative, whether it's neutral. And so the tone of language and the content they're posting has a massive impact on place. You consider consumers are, taking in up to 3 hours of content a day. And if what's being said about your place is negative, or what's being said about your place isn't being listened to and responded to, in the sense of not just response in the sense to responding to a comment, I mean responding to in the elements that's missing, it's a hugely missed opportunity. So understanding place sentiment helps place stakeholders evaluate the high street, and using sentiment analysis on a regular basis can really provide them with an understanding of how sentiment impacts on other place performance indicators. So the work we're doing in the High Street Task Force is all about saying, how can we compare social media data against something like footfall data? And we've also done integration during lockdown with Visa, Amex and MasterCard. So the project that Sarah's working on with local authorities and bids is very much about how we can absolutely measure trackable spend back from digital activity through to spend on the high street, because We believe that digital is a channel through which people spend an awful lot of their life. It's not necessarily the channel they have to spend in, and it's a way to improve places, deliver footfall, and ensure spend stays in the local economy. So this is a lovely infographic actually I saw at the beginning of the year, which is the social media universe. So let's just start before we start looking at the place specific data. Let's just stand back and think about this for a second. 66% of the UK's population spend over 3 hours a day on social media. It's terrifying, but it's the fact. And no longer it's not just businesses that publish information, it's consumers that publish information. Everybody's got an opinion and everybody's an influencer. So if you're not understanding what's being said about your place, in your place, by your businesses and by people in your place, you really are quite blindfolded. So, the big three are Instagram, Facebook, and WhatsApp. Rather terrifyingly, they're all owned by Facebook, and Messenger, beg your pardon. So Instagram, Facebook, Messenger, and WhatsApp are all owned by Facebook, and they represent the biggest audience of social media by country miles. So anybody that tells you Facebook is losing its grip, look at this diagram and think again. And then you've got Twitter, Snapchat, increasingly things like TikTok, but they are by no means the scale of Facebook's dominance. And Instagram, as regards anything consumer related, is a massively powerful channel. We see that we do a Wednesday webinar every week in the morning, and we look at the best posts across the UK. And increasingly, Instagram is just the place where consumers are spending an awful lot of time. So think of Instagram as your businesses and potentially your local authorities' window on the world. It's how people preview places. So, well, how do we get to this data? How do we know what we know? So we crawl around Google Maps, and we've actually collated the data from 3.7 million businesses now on a daily basis. The number goes up all the time. Probably next time I ask our tech team, it'll be 3.9 million businesses. But we literally crawl around Google Maps, and we identify websites from which we then go and crawl and find the Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram data. So everything we're showing you is publicly available data. It's really hard to get to. We go back every night and collect the data from Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and then pump it through a whole lot of clever machinery that turns it into dashboards and insights. And excitingly, we've also turned them into virtual high street guides as well, because we realised that we had a way to see every place in the UK, and we'll talk about more about in a minute. Then, as I mentioned, we've also linked it to Visa, MasterCard, and Amex using Messenger, and we're just working on Facebook and integrating WhatsApp as well, which means that we can turn transactions in a place into another data set that can be linked back to social data. And working on the High Street Task Force, we're going to link that with footfall as well. So it gives a really, really great view of what's happening in a place. Any questions as we go? Anybody? Have we got any questions so far, Sarah? You're on mute, dear.
Typical. One day we won't need to say that anymore and be in person, won't we? Wouldn't that be nice? No, not as yet, but it's nice to see Louise from Streatham and Paul from Pontefract. Be nice to hear where everyone else is from. Yeah, yes, do ping some questions through.
Let us know, and we'll make sure that if you tell us where you're from, we'll go and look at your data live on this call. So how the maybe data is used by the High Street Task Force. So this is you're now getting a glimpse of the High Street Task Force dashboard that's going to be released shortly. And Helen Nesby. All of these dashboards you will access through the High Street Task Force dashboard and alongside your footfall data. All of our integration is done. It's just waiting for the green light from MHCLG to say these dashboards are being released. So what you have on your High Street Task Force dashboard, and just to be clear, all of this data is being pulled from the maybe platform that you can access today as well. But the reason this data is on the High Street Task Force dashboard is it means you can overlay with footfall data as well, alongside all of the other great resources the High Street Task Force are providing. So what you have are 4 key reports: digital sentiment, digital participation, digital activity, digital engagement, and then your best place to post across all channels. I'm going to talk you through each of these in turn, just so you can see the logic of what you've got, and then we'll go and look at some of this data live. So digital sentiment's interesting. It takes the biggest words from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, aggregates it into a word cloud. The bigger the word, the more it's being talked about. All of this data is coming from all of the businesses in your place. So if you imagine it's taking all of the conversations published by all of the businesses in your place and pulling them together. And it's broken down by, are they national businesses or are they independent businesses? And you frequently see a very different mix here, because the independent businesses, what good looks like is they're talking about your place. We've got some really interesting data on this later on about how in some places the businesses don't talk about the place. And you can say, well, does that matter? And it absolutely does matter. And I'm really excited to link this back into footfall, because if you think about it for a second, a hashtag is a digital signpost. Now, if all of the businesses in your place are not talking about your place, but they're potentially talking about their websites, you're kind of cutting yourself off the knees, if that makes any sense. Because I believe that as human beings, we still very much want to physically experience. Digital matters enormously, but as far as a consumer is concerned, the where you do the transaction is that e-commerce is just a transaction, right? But if I want to come and touch it and feel it and smell it and understand it, try it on, or whatever it is, I'm just going to have a cup of coffee while I do it. I need to come to the place. So every place is increasing with some of its digital parts. And if the businesses in your place aren't singing about their location, it will have a negative impact on your place as a whole. Hold on to that thought, because we've got 10 really good examples of how different places convey different messages. And then we're doing a deep dive through that data. So digital participation is an interesting one. This looks at the number of national organisations on social media versus the number of local organisations on social media against the potential number of organisations on social media. And this very much goes to the heart of what Maybe does. Maybe is about saying that today only 28% of businesses are active on social media on any given day. That leaves 72% that are not. And that's the big gap for me in high street marketing, because as a consumer, 66% of us spending 3 hours a day on social media. So bluntly, if your place and your businesses aren't making a noise, you tell me what's going to happen. Customers get tempted and go elsewhere. They'll either get tempted to buy online or they get tempted to go to another place. So genuinely, this is the battleground for high street footfall. If you're not talking to your customer right now, who's now spent a year in a digital world, they will go to the place that makes the most noise. And national organisations, in the main, talk about the websites, they don't talk about place. So the organisation you want to get hold of is independent and get them talking about your place. This digital activity looks at digital activity against footfall. Now, this was the whole reason that we got involved with the High Street Task Force before lockdown happened. And of course, it felt inappropriate to be doing this during lockdown. But boy, am I looking forward to starting to track this data. It was really exciting to be able to see what's being said in a place and the impact that it has on the footfall of a place. We can track it really well against sales, particularly digital sales. But to start to see this data is really extraordinary. Real hats off to the IPM team for taking the plunge to link these two things together. And I think this will be massively important for both place managers and for businesses in the place to understand that digital doesn't just mean e-commerce. Digital is about improving the quality and quantity of people that come to your place because they understand the offer. And listening to their conversations so you can improve the offer based upon what they're saying. Or it can be sometimes be really silly things, but if you don't know, you can't fix it. And social media is a 24/7 exit survey that's happening around you all of the time. Remember, since we've been doing this webinar, somebody has said something about your place, and you probably don't know what it is. If you know what it is, believe me, it saves an awful lot of time and many meetings that maybe the customer's already telling you what needs to happen. This slide, the digital engagement slide, looks at the volume of content across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. This is just an example, so please don't run off and all start to use Twitter, because remember the slides at the beginning. Facebook's the kiddie. Facebook and Instagram are, whilst they're distinct platforms, they're all owned by the same people. I would say that we are saying, from a consumer perspective, if you want to invite customers to your place, then invest in Instagram. Now, it might be that as a local authority, you don't have amazing content yourself to share, but your businesses have fabulous content. And there's really clever ways that you can reshare the content from your business's feeds, and using the Maybe platform, which I'll show you in a minute, you can reshare the best posts in your place and start to create a feed of your place, or we've even done that for you. So, but understanding in your place, what are the channels that people are using is key, because you can start to understand where you need to deploy your resource to make sure that you're having the conversation with the audience that matters. And then at the bottom here, you see what is positive, and on the High Street Task Force dashboard, we do this in a slightly different way. It flags whether the conversation that's going on that day is positive, negative, or neutral. This is really useful because it helps you understand, well, actually there's a big spike, but actually it was all bad stuff. What was that bad stuff? And should we go and look at it? This, the sentiment scoring, we send through our API to the High Street Task Force. And what's happening here is that we are listening to every single word from every single post on from all the businesses in the place, scoring it for sentiment, and then giving back an aggregate score. So if you imagine it's like it's trying to read we are reading every single post in real time and giving it a sentiment score, which then means you can say, is it good, is it bad? Really useful. And we'll show you some examples of that. And then the final part of the best posts are the best posts, where we'll pull through on the Task Force dashboard the best post from each channel. You won't be able to engage them with them from here, but you can on the Maybe platform. We'll talk about the value of that, because these posts represent the best content in the sense of who's engaging with it. So it gives you a really good idea of what people in your place want to listen to. What are the most popular businesses? What are the most popular establishments? What are the most popular? Remember, this business, all of this data is coming from Google My Business. So it's not just retailers, it's libraries, it's universities, it's churches. And so just by looking at this and understanding what content is the most popular content in your place gives you a really good feel for what people want, because this is people voting with their feet or voting with their thumb, as they say, or finger, whichever you use to like stuff. It's a vote with that. So how can you use social media data to inform, engage, and empower? Well, I'm going to talk you through some data from within the Maybe platform. Now, remember, everything I'm showing you is now, from now forward, is in the Maybe platform. All of you can log in and do this. We have an agreement with the High Street Task Force that anybody that is signed up with the High Street Task Force can access all our Place Insights data without charge. So you can just dive in today, talk to Sarah, and she will make sure you've got access so you can do what I'm about to do. You'll have a dashboard like this. That means that you can see your data down the left-hand side, like the Exeter data, and down the right-hand side, you can put a comparison. That means you can compare yourself to somewhere else. And that can either be somebody who think they do this amazingly well. If you want some inspiration, go and watch Doncaster, because they just, as a local authority, they do an amazing job on social media. And today they've launched a TikTok account. They really get it. But if you alternatively, you can watch somebody nearby, because actually that's what if you talk about it in a competitive sense. Like Kathy hates me saying this, but I hope she's not listening. That your customers have got to decide between Exeter or Bristol, for example, or that if I'm going to go and do something, looking at what the customer is having to choose between is also quite useful. Or alternatively, put your place hashtag here, so you've got your data down the left hand side and your place hashtag down the right hand side, and you can see what's going on. So lots of different ways you can use it. The platform enables you to see exactly what's going on from both what I call a really executive view, but it gives your team a platform to manage a place really effectively and be on top of all the conversations within it, because remember, you've got all the data from Twitter, Facebook and Instagram pumped into one place. Saves a whole load of time. Now, the bit that's really exciting from a place marketing perspective is the place insights aspect of Maybe. Now we're going to go and jump in and do this live once we've gone through this data, and we'll go and put in the people on this call and look at it live, which will be fun. So talking through the data that you can see here is you've got the percentage of organisations with a social media account. Now this is the thing that actually if you like, gave birth to Maybe. This looks at the percentage of organisations with social media in a place. So you can see here that each colour line represents a place. The bottom two are county ones. So we've got 3,600 boundaries within the Maybe platform. We've taken that data from Oxford Business School. They've got something called CRDC boundaries, and we know we've overlaid that onto our Google data, so we know all the businesses in that place. Jumped around, sorry. You can see here that Gloucestershire and Sheffield County are the lowest. Now, if you put all the other counties in, a very, very similar pattern would emerge. And this is the really scary bit, that at a county level, close to 25% of businesses have got a social media account. The rest don't. And that's a worry. It's interesting, we start going up here into the high street data. It's getting better. That's really pleasing to see. And you see here how there's an increase in January. what we tend to do is run a big sweep across all of the UK quarterly. So sometimes that jump doesn't mean they're all did at the same time. It's just, as you can imagine, crawling 3.7 million businesses is not something we do every night. And we go and do a refresh of the data. So that would be a refresh in the data, so you can see the incremental increase here. But this is the really worrying piece. So you've got, this is the percentage of organisations with a social media account. And then the next graph on the right shows the percentage of organisations active on social media. So this is a percentage of a percentage. So this says, of those, how many are using it? So of the 25% that have a social media account, only 25% are using them. That's the bit that really scares me. When you think about businesses like Gymshark, who's 8 years ago were an SME and then now during COVID being valued as $1 billion business, those are the businesses that have embraced social media. So you could say, well, you know, that's irrelevant, but I disagree with you, because we track Primark as an example. Primark is a business that has not had any way of selling during COVID. But if you look at their social media, we did a lovely piece actually on this morning on our Preparing to Reopen webinar. If you look at Primark, their social media tracks above, or is tracks on a par with people like ASOS and Boohoo. They are absolutely all over engaging with their audience. And when Primark open, every place that has a Primark will thank their lucky stars, because Primark will have the biggest queue. And they do that because they engage with their audience. I don't believe Primark will ever sell online because their price point won't work. It just, the returns will be too high, which is a real benefit for the high street, because it means every Primark is a footfall driver. But it's not by magic, it's because they invest in their digital activity. Now, I guarantee you, if you put Primark data here, you wouldn't see this trend, which is that in the main, across the UK, and I very rarely see this break trend, in every town, organisations are less active on social media at the weekend than they are during the week, which is bonkers, because that's when customers are active. So there's a real sort of business use of social media for businesses, and they forget that the time when they should be more active is the time when customers are more active. So that's very interesting. So percentage of organisations active on social media, and also look at this trend at the weekend, big drop. So and just to explain, we've got Cheltenham, Exeter, Bede, Gloucestershire County, Harrogate, High Street, Ulster, Northampton, Portsmouth, Sheffield, Torquay, and Woodbridge in each of these slides. That was just a random mix with some. There is actually some logic that you'll see at the end. But when we finish this section of the webinar, we will put all of you in and look at your data too. And don't be embarrassed. Don't suddenly disappear. We won't embarrass anybody.
I've started making a list already. So anyone else want to be included in that data, do pop it in chats.
Right. So oh, look at that. I've copied the same slide on twice. Hang on, people. We're going to leap out. That's me I was doing things in a hurry. It's very silly. Sorry. I was going to do this live. Let's go to place insights. So we've now dived to the Maybe account, and we're going to do this live. And then we'll dive back to slides. Otherwise, I get distracted, go off piece, which Sarah, you know I love doing. So we're going to place insights part of Maybe, and we're going to pull up these all these graphs again that I just showed you. Now I've just talked about the top line here. And the next line down is what I want to talk about, but I've managed to copy the wrong set of data across. I'm not concentrating, apologies. Go back to December, which is where I was. So you can pick any date range, and you can compare any set of towns you'd like. Now what you've got here is the post volumes for those places. Actually, it's much more fun doing it live because you can dive in and look at the numbers. And again, you can see that at the post volumes at the weekend drop. Crazy, 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 crazy. This is interesting. There's a big leap here. We thought for a magical moment it was Valentine's. There was also a very big announcement about the high streets here, but it also looks like Facebook have changed one of their APIs, which means that the leap in data has happened for everybody. So I think this is a data anomaly, but there are strange outliers here that don't move massively. So we are digging into this, but the joys of doing what we do is that we are dealing with extraordinary volumes of data every day, and we have to live with what Facebook sends us. But it's the same as Facebook sending everybody. So bear with us there. Now so that's post volumes, and then engagement volumes are very interesting. Now, one thing we discovered at the last High Street Task Force session was that businesses, it was around the same time we did a piece of research for Retail Week, and we discovered that places that talked about COVID a lot, and businesses, same thing, they tended to have quite a negative sentiment, which had an impact on engagement. So there's a very clever shimmy that needs to be done as High Street starts to reopen, which is that obviously everybody will talk about reopening safely, but don't overdo it. And our one very simple tip we've got for everybody is create a great piece of content about reopening your High Street that talks about all the safety measures, because you've got to do that. People need to know what they can and can't do. When you've created that great piece of content, pin it to the top of all of your feeds. Point to it from all of your newsletters, but then stop talking about it within your social feed, so that your social feed is the fun stuff. It's the stuff that wants to bring people to your place. You can reference it and say, see the post at the top of our feed about safety, but don't just talk about COVID, because what we've seen across data, both commercial and non-commercial data, is it creates a negative sentiment. So this is the sentiment score that we talked about earlier on. The more you talk about COVID, the more negative the sentiment is, and the less engagement you've got. Now, engagement matters, because the more engagement you've got, the more people you reach. So there is a very clever shimmy that everybody needs to do, which is you need to get your safety measuring and messaging right. Create an awesome piece of content that be our recommendation. Now we're going to start highlighting good content around that, but then make sure your team just pin it to your feeds, as opposed to just keep posting about that. Because what you want to do is let your place shine through. And I'm going to show you some really good examples of that in a moment. So this is engagement volume graph, and then this is the sentiment volume graph. Good thing here is nobody's actually gone negative, but you can see during lockdown, you know, the general drop in humour, shall we say, for all of us. And what we want to see is everybody lifting up. Things like this are worth looking to. So Portsmouth clearly got a dip here. And within their account, they could look in and understand, well, why that dip? Shorten the time frame, look at the word cloud and think, well, what was the problem here? Because that, from a place management perspective, is really interesting. We had a case last year actually where we saw this a lot around a new road junction that had gone in somewhere, and it was so clear something was so wrong from the data. You know, think of this as it's public consultation in real time. Look at this data, understand this data, and go and say change the time frame up here. Look at the word cloud and think, well, why was that? We might even do that now. Should we do that now? I'm not meant to be doing that. I'm only to finish.
I'm not meant to be going off piece, but it will be interesting though. It would be really interesting.
Come back to remind me, Sarah, and we'll come back.
Okay.
We'll do that in the Q&A. Remind me to do that. So I need to get back to the presentation, otherwise I get way too excited about everything. Sorry, I just love it. So coming back here, that was because I put two slides in together. So okay, so sentiment. Now let's talk about word clouds. So the word clouds are, as I said, on the High Street Task Force data. The bigger the word, more people are talking about it. Now this is really interesting, because I pulled out Northampton here, because they have got, this is really unusual, their place hashtag is even bigger than their place itself. So a round of applause to Northants together, because you very rarely see this. And you see how this is a really nice positive, talking about the students, love, uni, Christmas, but the fact that their place hashtag is shining through is, everybody wants to aspire to that. Really, really good. Now, just coming here, we've got, you know, what does good look like? Well, good look like what we saw with Northampton. Some other very interesting ones here, though. So Woodbridge is a good example, where Woodbridge is a small market town, ironically, where I was born, but that was a complete aside. I happened to just type it in the other day and saw this is what every small market town should aspire to. Do you see how Woodbridge is key, but you also immediately understand from this that their content is all about their businesses. Woodbridge, independence, really strong vibe of this place looks interesting. We're going to show you what the actual data, the content from there looks like. Exeter bid, good. Hashtag for the place, hashtag Devon, but there's not a place hashtag shining through, but clearly nice big signpost for the place. Harrogate, again, great, nice big signpost for Harrogate. Yorkshire, oh sorry, let me get that leg. Oh gosh, no, don't do that. Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, small COVID, that's good. Valentine's probably could have been bigger. Crona's quite big. So Harrogate, great job. Sheffield again, great job. But this is what these ones are a little bit more worrying. So Torquay, we just started working with actually. Harrogate we do work with, so great shout out to Harrogate, well Must be really about clients, so remind me of that.
Mm.
Torquay. So Torquay, lovely selection of content, but actually, do you see how Torbay here, there's the actual signpost of the place isn't very big. So getting all of the businesses in the place to talk about the place. Now it might not be, it might be visit Torbay, it might be the hashtag visit Torbay, it might be, you might choose a different hashtag, but you do need to get the businesses in a place talking about the place, because otherwise, they could just be linking out to their websites and people are less likely to visit. Sounds crazy, but you have to ask people to dinner party, otherwise nobody turns up to eat your food. Same thing here with Portsmouth. Do you see how Portsmouth Tesco's mobile treats is bigger than anything? I can't see Portsmouth.
It's there, bottom right.
Thank you, I'm too blind.
Got it? Keep going right. That's left. That's it. That's left. Go the other way.
I really am. I'm really stupid.
There you are. You see it?
Yeah, tiny.
Yeah.
Now, any questions? You're all very quiet, my behave. Next one. I think this is interesting. So this is Gloucestershire. Now, I'll tell you a story about Gloucestershire. About I don't know, maybe 5 years ago, somebody who was quite big in place marketing in Gloucestershire discovered that the Cotswolds was the sort of one of the most popular tourism search terms in TripAdvisor, and they also discovered that Gloucester wasn't in the Cotswolds in TripAdvisor. So they lobbied TripAdvisor to get Gloucester included in the Cotswolds. And literally within 3 months, Gloucester Cathedral became the #1 tourist spot of the Cotswolds, because the Americans started to find it, the Japanese started to find it. Now, while we're doing the research for this webinar, I just thought I'd check out the county boundary of Gloucestershire and Cheltenham. And I was staggered to see how small the hashtag Cotswolds is. So from a DMO's perspective, actually this is interesting, because it's very easy to get quite wrapped up in your own place campaign. And what I'm saying, don't forget the hidden jewels, because Cotswold is a brand in its own right, and it would suggest that there's not enough priority by the businesses in Cheltenham or Gloucester to talk about the Cotswolds. But it's the brand that the Japanese, Americans. What was the day when those people come back as well? Actually, my sister from America said she's coming in July, so maybe life is really becoming normal. But that whole concept of talk about your place, use all of the assets you've got. So this is a good example of maybe Cotswolds could be shouted out more. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I didn't know that story. That's amazing.
Yeah, there you go. With Jason Smith, actually, Jason got Cotswolds back into tourism. It made a huge difference, massive difference. But it was literally by getting Gloucester put into TripAdvisor under Cotswolds. But the same principle applies here with the Cotswolds. Why is it not being pulled out of the content by the businesses in the town? So I can feel a piece of content coming on, Sarah, because we're just about to launch a campaign in Cheltenham, and I think we need to explain to the businesses in Cheltenham that they really need to why talking about Cotswolds is so important. Will you take a note on that before I forget it? I know I'll forget that.
No, it's all logged in here.
Brilliant. So do you see how, just going back to look here, the difference in the word clouds, and it's really extraordinary the impact it has. And I'll show you what that means. So within the Maybe platform, we're going to do this live in a second, you can look at the best posts in any given place. And we've gone and looked at Woodbridge. Remember that word cloud? Look at that lovely flavour. You get the flavour that something really interesting is going on here. Now, when you look at the best posts for Woodbridge, now this is the Maybe machine pulling out the posts that have had the most engagement on a given day. You can see here that you get a really nice feel. There's a lovely vibe of independent businesses, people engaging with the content. Not at an extraordinary level, but actually what's interesting here is there's just a nice piece of engagement with all of the content. And you come here, and I jumped and looked at the Galley restaurant, who's the #1 on the day that we looked. I think this was from 2 days. This was from first of March. And actually, all they do every day is post, "We're back," and they talk about their menus. And there's lovely conversations going on by everybody. You see how each post is being liked by them. Now, as a local authority or as a bid, all of this content represents your place. And what we teach people to do and encourage people to do through the Maybe platform is just come and engage with the content, the best content in your place, because that's what your place represents. That's what's inviting people to come back to. And that's the content that you want to display. That is your shop window. So take that one step further. Within the Maybe platform, oh, it's gone somewhere now. Where's it gone? Come back. Within the Maybe platform, you have got all of, not only have you got the best post, you've got all of the posts from your place. So this is Woodbridge right now. This is all of the businesses in Woodbridge. This is all the content. And literally, as a logged in user to Maybe, you can like it, you can comment on it, you can give this to your comms team. It's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram data from all of the businesses in your place. And as a local authority, this is the best way you could possibly support your high street reopen. You start re-engaging with the content from the businesses within your place. Just amplify their voice, get them all talking to each other. What we do is provide all the businesses with access to this feed so that all of the businesses within the place can start engaging with each other. That gets them all reach. It encourages them to be more active. They reach more consumers. Your consumers are reminded about the great things you've got within your local town. Now we've taken that one stage further now because we realized that this is all B2B stuff. This is stuff you log into and it's hidden behind a wall. And we've now turned this into a consumer-facing guide as well. So you may have begun to hear something about something called local rewards. And what it is all the data from within Maybe turned into an external guide. Everybody has a free guide they can use. If you'd like to brand it, you can, but you have to pay a few beans. And each business can sign in to manage their listing. And we're just releasing a card right now that has, or you can swipe the crocuses and you'll see what this business is doing to reopen safely. You can see the opening times. The link map goes to their location. The shopping cart goes to their website, and it has all of their reopen safely messages on it. So we're really working very hard to provide a very agile framework that every place can use to help reopen the high streets. All of this is dynamically updated by what businesses are posting on social media, so it becomes a really living, vibrant representation of your town. So we've got a bit of time, haven't we? Should we go and dive in and look at some data?
Yes, come on.
Anybody out for being wicked? Should we go and do some live stuff? Sure. Very good. Are they still here?
I think so. Yes, there's lots of people here. They're just being really quiet.
Okay, so we're going to go and dive for Maybe platform. Let me out. And should we go and look at that Portsmouth piece of data because that was fascinating.
Yes. Yeah. We're wanting to see, weren't we, a sort of shorter timescale.
Yeah. So place insights. So it came back to place insights and.
Oh, Melanie. Hi, Melanie. Broxbourne. Melanie says, just to confirm, are these high street guides only for the shops and placemakers? They are not accessible to the general public. Have I got this right?
The guide.
Yeah, the high street guide.
Guides are available to everybody.
Yeah, it's the point of the guides actually is so that consumers can find out what's going on their high street and shop local.
Absolutely, we'll go and have a look at those in 2 seconds. So let's go to Portsmouth. 2 seconds.
Oh, that's nice, Louise. I'm glad you're finding it interesting. I was born in Streatham, actually, so Streatham would be good too, please, Polly.
Okay, we can do Streatham. So we've got Portsmouth, right? Date range. What was that date range? I'm under pressure now. Let's look at that negative bit in Portsmouth. So
yeah, it was the last little bit, wasn't it, from the 1st of Feb?
1st of Feb, 22nd, 27th of February. So we're going to go from the 27th of February. We see a negative dip in data. So we go from, let's go from the 25th. Maybe go back a little bit more because it might be something that happened before then. So we've seen a negative dip in the sentiment. So let's make sure we've got it. So we see this dip. You see this dip here for Portsmouth. It's gone down to 0.014. That means something bad was going on. Let's see what the Portsmouth word cloud now says. Let's see whether it shows us. Interesting. Very a lot happening in Portsmouth. Vaping could be being picked up as negative. I always get scared when I start doing this. You can find something really unpleasant sometimes. There might be this one here, FUCK. That's what it is. FUC, there you go. Might be that one. Let me come back a bit. I think I'm getting nervous. I'm going to show something inappropriate. But you get the feeling. But literally, this is how somebody discovered a road, a big road junction issue, and they from here they worked out who the influencers were that were talking about it, and did something about it. They found out that there was. Let's imagine there's a word here that you find out. Then using the influence piece within the Maybe platform, I'm going to show you. They can find out who were the people talking about that thing. They went and spoke to them, and they discovered the solution to the problem that was actually causing a massive amount of bad PR. So think of this as 24/7 exit survey stuff that you can then start to be a little detective around. Anybody who would like to know more about this, just jump on. I think we do daily demos through the week, and we could cover this off really, really well in one of those. But just these are people that are behind these words. And you can basically walk backwards down the data to find out who these people are. So if you've got a negative spike, you can then walk backwards through it and then work out what the problem is. Right, shout out, bear with me because I'm an illiterate idiot and tend to misspell everything. So I'm clear down this data here, and let's go on tour. And then Melanie will go and show you how local rewards is different from this, so it's really clear. Shout out the places, Sarah. You're on mute, dear.
Not again. The dogs were barking, someone came through, so I was protecting everyone's ears. Right, Streatham, Streatham.
Streatham, where should we go? High Road and Queensbury.
That's Harrow. Just go High Road. That should be fine. And then we've got lovely Kim from Knoll.
Hello, Kim. No, Visit Knoll. I've got High Street Knoll. Perfect. Yep.
And then I've got my other lovely Kim from Bristol.
Bristol. Hello, Kim from Bristol. I'm looking forward to meeting you. Bristol.
She's my friend Polly. Leave her alone.
Oh, sorry. We can still speak.
Very excited to be working in Bristol City. And lovely Simon from Bromsgrove, not so far down the road from me.
They're not all to get competitive when we do this. This is just because we can. We're going to put Bromsgrove the place and Bromsgrove local authority in. And what's really interesting here is you can see the boundary on each one. So the pin says you can see where it's for. We've got a really exciting piece of tech that lets you draw. So these are the boundaries we get from Oxford Business School. But you can also, any second now, you might go and do them actually. No, I'm not going to do that. You can go and draw a boundary as well. So you can, if you're a bid, for example, you want to go, no, I don't want all the businesses in this area. I want to just have the bit around Cats Hill or something. You can draw a boundary and create your own bespoke boundary. And then the star shows you the best post. But let's, anybody else? Don't mind, make sure we get everybody in.
Yeah, we've got lovely Paul. He actually represents Epping Forest, but he is in Chenies in Buckinghamshire. So that would be interesting. Chenies.
I used to live in Window, but Chenies, I've got that wrong. Have I got that wrong? CHEN?
Yeah, I can't, it's a bit small.
Don't think we've got that one. We'd have to build your custom boundary for that. We very rarely don't get one. I'm really sorry. Okay, where can we go bigger?
Should we go Buckinghamshire then?
Let's do Buckinghamshire. But that's a case for a custom boundary which we'd create, and it can be live within 24 hours. So not a problem. Who else? Sorry.
Oh, lovely Diane from Reigate and Banstead. So let's go to Reigate.
Reigate.
EI.
EI. Sorry, I am a dyslexic idiot. Sorry.
There we go.
Reigate and Banstead. Only select tenant once, so we won't have. Let's not have that one. Not have that one. Okay. We won't. It's our tech team being mean. They say I'll blight after I have too many, which I would do. So we've got Reigate and Banstead local authority. So you can look at the map. You can see which area this covers. So that's a lot of data, right? We have so that you impress people. That's quite quick, isn't it? So what date range? Should we go from how far would you like to go back? Should we go from beginning of December? Yeah. So all of you, that's not a trick. Have just given us that data. So Imperial Park, Bristol. I think that's a retail park, I'd imagine, Kim. 83%, so lots of national retailers there, I should think. Down here we've got Buckinghamshire County at 22. So remember when we looked at Gloucestershire and at, what was the other county we had earlier on? Another county. So local authorities, they're always the wider the boundary, the lower the percentage. So 26 and 22, that's very standard, and that's for me the big problem across the UK, which is businesses just not having embraced social media. And that's that's maybe's work. That's what we do, other than just supply data high street task force. That's our jobs. We help those numbers go up. So things to pick out from here. So you see this is a retail park. And interesting here, do you see how sometimes less of a dip at the weekends? So I hope some of the businesses realizing they should keep talking at the weekends. What else is really interesting here? Oh, that's interesting. No. So good. Where's Noel here? No, 35%. Well done, Kim. The independent businesses, 35%. Yes, Noel's a smaller town. Is that fair? Noel looking like the weekend. That's good too. Sometimes not too much of a difference. Yeah, no, Kim. We need to get the weekend. We need to get the weekends working harder. Let's come down to say here. Let's look at the word clouds across everybody. So Stratton, everyday amazing. A good hashtag here. Good, that's a healthy looking word cloud. Visit Noel, yeah, lovely. Visit Noel, 10 out of 10, Kim. Look at that. Visit Noel, Solihull, Noel, lots of lovely place. Yeah, really good. Solihull, and this is Noel again, coming twice. What's Bonham's 1793? Ask Kim in chat. That must be a business that.
Oh, it's no, I know. It's an auction house.
Of course.
Bonham's, yeah.
So visit Noel, yeah, really lovely. Look at this, and really good footfall driver, I think, for Noel as well. Really good, and nice to see Visit Solihull coming out in it as well. Really smashing. Yeah.